So to get started, I'm going to create a simple furniture schedule. I'm going to use a furniture schedule because the items in the schedule will be easily verified because we can make a quick visual count on screen and make sure that we're seeing the same stuff in both views. And to create a schedule, I'll switch over to the View tab. I'm going to click on the Schedule button, go to Schedules and Quantities, and that will display a new schedule dialog. All the Revit categories are listed, and all you need to do is select the category that you're interested in for your schedule. So in this case, I'll choose Furniture. Click OK. So the multi-tab Schedule Properties dialog will appear, and the first tab is Fields, and the list of available fields will vary depending on the category you chose in the previous screen. So I'm going to scroll through this list and locate a few fields that I might want to add. I'm going to add the type mark, the family and type, the count, and I always like to add some comments. So we'll start with just those 4 simple fields, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It would be possible to do changes on the other tabs, but we can always come back and do those later, and we'll look at those in a later movie. Now, when you display the schedule, you can actually come in here and adjust the columns to make things a little more legible, and you'll see a nice list here of all the furniture we have in our model. Now, to do some of the other things that I'd like to show you with the schedule, it would be interesting or useful to have this schedule side by side with a floor plan view. Now, if you look up here on your quick access toolbar, it's usually a pretty good idea to check how many open windows you have before you tile your windows. So if we click the window switching drop down, I only have 2 windows open right now. That's pretty good. But if you have dozens, then you certainly would want to know this next command. Right next to the switching windows is this guy right here, Close Hidden Windows. You can also find that on the View tab. This is a very important command. If you've got 30, 40 windows open in your Revit project and you go to tile, they're all going to be like the size of a postage stamp. Very difficult to read. So what you want to do is every so often you want to close all the hidden windows, clean up your view basically. That'll also free up some RAM and memory so Revit will perform better, like so. You'll see that now I only have the 1 active window open. And then you go to your project browser, and if you need another view, like the Level 1 furniture, you can deliberately open it. And then finally, on the View tab, you can click the Tile button or use the Windows shortcut WT. Now I'm going to go ahead and adjust the view so that I can get a nice clean look at the floor plan. And then over here in the schedule view, I can see very clearly the 4 columns. Now let me show you a few tricks for the way that things work here. Essentially what we have on screen is a graphical view on the left in a floor plan and a tabular view on the right in the schedule. And I'm saying it that way because I want you to understand very clearly what we have. Let's talk about the beds for a moment. Here I've got a bed standard king listed and a bed standard queen. If you scan through the list, you don't see any other beds, and you can verify that easy enough by looking over at your floor plan. There's only 2 beds. If I select one of those beds in the schedule, you will see it actually highlight in the floor plan. They are one and the same. The one on the left is a graphical representation of the bed, and the one on the right is a text-based representation of the bed. They're both the same bed as far as Revit's concerned. In fact, if I opened up this list right here, here's a list of all the families that I could possibly swap out for that, and I could change this bed on the fly to a twin bed right in the schedule. So this was some of what I was talking about in the introduction when I said you can change it in any view you like, and it changes in all views. So that's a really simple example of that, but a powerful one nonetheless. So that works with any of these objects. Notice how if I select through them. Now, in this case, I have several of these chair broyers. Now, suppose I wanted to eventually tag some of these items. Well, right now they don't have any type marks. In the previous movie on adding tags, we talked about type marks versus instance marks and discussed how you would make some of those edits. Well, right here in the schedule is another way that I could make this edit. I could call this C for chair 1 and press enter. Now, when I do, Revit will recognize that the change I'm making is actually a type-based change, and it will apply that to every instance of the chair broyer. Now, we're not really going to see that in the floor plan because we don't have any tags, but watch what happens in the schedule. So you see how every instance of the chair broyer has been filled in with the type mark C1. So again, the schedule just becomes now one more tool in your arsenal as a way for you to select, edit, and manipulate objects. You can make multiple selections in the schedule as well, and sometimes that can be very valuable, very powerful. So, for example, if I have both of these Corbeau chairs here in the living room, and if I want to change them for something else, I can click and drag through both items, and you'll see they both highlight in the schedule. Now, the trick is that if you come right over here and you click, unfortunately, it drops the one selection and only goes to the first one. So that actually doesn't do the trick. So let me drag through them again, get them both selected. But this is one of the reasons why you want the tiled views side by side. If I just come over here and click on the floor plan title bar, that will make the floor plan active. That will give me access to the properties palette. You can see Corbeau chair listed here on the type selector. And now I could open up the list and scroll through and see what other chairs I have available to me. Doesn't look like I have a whole lot of choices for chairs, so I might be somewhat limited in what I can choose. I guess we'll go ahead and just make these a chair broider to illustrate the point, even though that's not quite as interesting as the Corbeau chair. But by doing that, notice that both of those chairs also picked up the designation C1, because again, that's now part of that type property for the chair. So that hopefully gets you a little bit warmed up in understanding the power and the potential of a schedule. So creating the schedule, you really only need to do two things to get started. You choose a category, and then you pick some fields, and you'll get that tabular list. And then once you have the list, it can be a great way to verify what you have, to make global edits to the project, or to just drag on a sheet for printing. We'll talk about sheets and printing in a later chapter.